The Detroit Club, located at 712 Cass Avenue in downtown Detroit. Architect, Wilson Eyre Jr. of John Scott and Company. Architectural style, Romanesque Revival and Italian Renaissance. Date of completion, 1891. In those early days, business and transportation moved at a snail's pace. Offices and businesses closed at noon for a couple of hours each day, and the men went home to lunch. The origin of the Detroit Club dates back to 1882, when Detroit attorney Samuel T. Douglas and banker-broker Henry Campbell, who presumably had no one to go home to, met by chance one day and came up with the idea for a downtown club where men of culture could associate to mold and to form the atmosphere and enthusiasm, which are important factors in club welfare, and where they could give interested attention to the development of art, civics, literature, and other elements in the permanent upbringing of the city. With an original membership of 10, they rented a house on Lafayette between Wayne and Cass Avenue and hired a chef. For several years afterward, the members met in a house at the corner of Fort and Wayne. They soon convinced 100 more of Detroit citizens to join. The original charter was signed by 101 men. Within a year, the club had outgrown its first home and moved to larger quarters on Fort Street. Less than a decade later, the club hired architect Wilson Eyre to design a new building to serve as their meeting place. The current clubhouse at 712 Cass Avenue was built in 1891, an architectural blend of Romanesque Revival and Italian Renaissance. The Detroit Club is a 4-story brick and stone Romanesque Revival building. The front door is hidden within an unusual recessed archway with stairs. The club features a grill and library on the first floor, a family room on the second floor, and a main dining room with smaller meeting rooms on the third floor. The interior features fine woodwork, a wide main stair, sculptures, art, and an enormous fireplace in the main dining hall. It was a select group of men who hobnobbed for lunch, dinner, or a game of billiards, or who used the club for summit meetings. Since the very beginning in 1882, the club was a place where decisions were made. Its membership was a blend of big business, the professions, and the men who have contributed to the cultural growth of the city. In the early days, they were pioneers in lumber, real estate, railroads, and men who held office. An early member was General Russell Alexander Alger, a prominent lumberman who had a distinguished career in the Civil War, served as governor of Michigan, as Secretary of War for President McKinley, and as a United States Senator. Hugh McMillan, the club's first president, was a founder of the Michigan Telephone Company and held interests in railway, electrical, mining, manufacturing, steamship, and bank businesses. James B. Book, heir to vast commercial and real estate interests, was a member, as was Charles B. King, the man who drove the first car on Detroit streets in 1896. These early men were followed by the men who made their fortunes with the automobile, chemicals, or steel. A number of pivotal events in the 20th century took place within the walls of the Detroit Club. In 1902, the Automobile Club of Detroit was organized at a meeting. In 1922, Michigan Governor Alex Groesbeck held strategy sessions to decide whom to tap to fill the open Senate seat, which resulted from Truman Newberry's resignation. Groesbeck chose James Couzens. In 1930, Governor Fred Greene met with Detroit bank presidents to work out details for closing the city's banks. In 1944 through 1945, After an extensive series of meetings at the club, Henry Ford II wrested control of Ford Motor Company from Harry Bennett. Later, Lee Iacocca used the club to launch his campaign to restore the Statue of Liberty and develop Ellis Island into a museum. Dignitaries entertained at the club include Harry Truman, Herbert Hoover, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Prince William of Sweden, Empress Zeta of Austria, the Duke of Windsor, Margaret Truman, Charles Lindbergh, Jean Tooney, Admiral Richard Byrd, John D. Rockefeller, and Edward G. Robinson. The Detroit Club is still in operation today and is still actively accepting new members, both men and women. The Detroit Club remains a jewel within the city of Detroit.